Hey, this is Samantha once again. Welcome back to another video. There's another paid request, this time for Yule. Thank you so much for that. And for those interested in requesting pretty much any type of videos, topics, reactions, reviews, re-reviews, randomness, out of the blueness, whatever it may be, feel free to send it either directly to my PayPal or join my Patreon. Both links are down below in the info box. Now this is for Die Another Day, a review of the last James Bond film Pierce Brosnan did, and without a doubt one of the worst James Bond films that was ever made. This is garbage. It's a garbage movie. Again, for those interested in requesting anything, feel free to send it either directly to my PayPal or join my Patreon. Both links down below in the info box. I hope you'll love this review or liked it or something. This is one of those films that, as it begins, there's a bit of hope because, okay, when North Korea and there's a deal going on, I find it funny that it starts with James Bond doing surfing, because this is around the time that in 2001, this came out in 2002, 2001 Triple X with Vin Diesel came out. And what was that movie? James Bond, but extreme sports. So it's funny that one of the things featured at the beginning is surfing, which could be, to some, an extreme sport. Not all, but to some it could. And in North Korea, there's a double agent that tells on him. And so it results into this action scene, pretty decent action scene, pretty decent, on a hovercraft where James Bond is shooting up mines and they're going up and exploding, and there's a lot of practical, let me stress that, there's a lot of practical effects being implemented, explosions, it's a real hovercraft. Lee Tamahori did not do a bad job directing this sequence. Believe me, that's the last I'll say about the action scenes being directed competently. Because they either have garbage CG, well, mostly it's garbage CG, or just... I'll get to that. By the way, this is the same guy that going to direct Triple X 2, State of the Union. So... during the hovercraft, one of the bad guys dies, James Bond is captured, and then for like over a year he's tortured. This is where things go awry. Because, James Bond is being tortured. That's very serious. That's very dire circumstances. So why the hell do you have the song, your title theme song, playing, such a peppy, gonna die another day, we're gonna die another day? That's like, I don't know, Midnight Express montage being done, but the theme is Friday, it's Friday, bad day, Friday. That'd be, I don't know, something from The Human Centipede is being played. It's a scene where a mouse being sewn onto an ass, but then the song's playing, I want to know what love is, I want you to show me. It just doesn't fit. The puzzle pieces don't fit. You have a montage of James Bond being tortured or fried, or whatever the hell, just while gonna die another day. That doesn't make any damn sense. Let's have a high, upbeat, peppy song while your lead character is being tortured. So over a year passes by. There's an exchange. The bad guys get Rick Yune. Rick Yune, he was in the first Fast and Furious as the bad guy. He's been in other stuff. He's now got diamonds in his face because his explosion put him in there. But there's really nothing else to him. He's a very lackluster, unmemorable villain. It's not even like, oh, take a hat and chop a damn statue off, or he's impervious to pain. There's just nothing. Just he's got some diamonds on his face. Okay, might as well be a face tattoo. It doesn't do anything. It's just cosmetic. So in this change, James Bond's return to MI6. Judi Dench, for some reason, wants to think, oh, you told. You said something. You told. Even though this is like your best agent. Even though time after time after time after time he saved the world, you can't give him a little bit of leniency, a little bit of trust, or a little bit of credence. It's, yep, he must be a traitor somehow. I'm like, wow, that's really a big pill to swallow. And even that doesn't go so much into the plot of him being a traitor, because he escapes fairly easily. Then he goes to Havana, meets Halle Berry, who works with the NSA, and the plot is just uninvolving. At the time, I remember critics saying this was like the best James Bond film in years. I remember one critic saying this was the best James Bond film since The Spy Who Loved Me. I went, what? There were critics at the time saying, oh, this is the best Pierce Brosnan James Bond film. Better than GoldenEye? Better Tomorrow Never Dies? This plot is boring. It's a slog to sit through. You don't care what's going on. Even then, they just steal stuff from like the man with the golden gun, where Christopher Lee has a thing and power from the sun, or other stuff it just steals from. Like, it wants to be serious, like it's a Timothy Dalton James Bond. That's the thing. It's like, at times it wants to be a Timothy Dalton James Bond film, like License to Kill, but then wants to be as silly as Moonraker. License to Kill and Moonraker don't mix. I know they're James Bond, but they're two very different James Bond films. This is like trying to do License to Kill and Moonraker at the same time. It doesn't fit. You have your lead character being tortured, but there's an invisible car. Yes, there is an invisible car in this. Even Roger Moore, when it came out, said, I was in Moonraker with James Bond space, and even I go, that's BS. That's what Roger Moore said. Is like bad CGI and invisible car? No thanks. And he was in the Spy Who Loved Me where the car drove underwater. But I bought the Spy Who Loved Me. It was just at least more entertaining. Has a great theme song. Nobody does it better. Like, it was more consistent what its tone was. This, it felt longer. It felt slower. I liked Halle Berry, but she could not save the film. I liked her in Kidnap. I liked her in John Wick 3. She could not save this. No one could. I like Pierce Brosnan. It's sad that this was the last film he did. I think he was in a video game, which had a different, like a unique, it had an original plot, Everything or Nothing or something. So, I'd never played the game. I don't know if there's a movie that someone edited the game as a movie. If there is, feel free to let me know. But people said that's kind of like the unofficial last Pierce Brosnan film. But it's a video game. And after the opening, the action scenes never come up to par to James Bond. I mean, you did an alright sword fight where Madonna, who sang the theme song, Die Another Day, she is a fencing instructor. Yeah, I buy that. As much as that girl being a scientist in World Is Not Enough, Denise Richards. I buy Madonna as a fencing instructor. I wouldn't buy her to paint my fence. Rosamund Pike, who I remember from the 2005 Doom movie, among others. She's with this British guy. James Bond and the guy are fencing. Then they decide whoever gets a slash on the torso wins. And it's not a bad sword fight, to be fair. It's not bad. It's decently choreographed. But it seems like the action just gets like this. Where then after that, like this stuff, okay, Havana, I didn't even finish that thought. Because there's nothing to finish. Beats Halle Berry. 30 seconds later, they're in bed. So they're both easy. Then there's Rick Yoon. He escapes. Halle Berry does this awful dive to this bad CGI where she is an agent. She dives backwards off a cliff, and it's such bad green screen. It looks faker than a $7 bill. It just was awful. Like, this has the worst CG in a Bond film. Where did the budget go? And some of the diamond led to this, like, some British rich guy. It's not a bad sword fight. And then the whole him being a traitor, him... Oh, Judi Dench thinks that he leaked the info. That led to nothing. Because, boom, now he's right back to, he's training. And he gets with the new Q, played by John Cleese. And that whole being a traitor led to nothing. It led to nada. It led to zip. Really, nothing came of it. So what was the point? Or him... Well, James Bond had PTSD because he was tortured for over a year. No. Will he have nightmares of being tortured for over a year? No. Will he be extra angry because you guys tortured me for a year? No. So then even what was the point of him being tortured for a year? What was the point of any of that? What was the point of any of that? It led to nothing. It led to nothing in the story. It led to nothing else in the plot. It led to nothing. And how the hell does VR help you train? I don't know. Training, you have to be like physical, know the actual area. VR training is not going to help in that. Just, okay, you train in VR, maybe that's, but that's not the same. Okay, when I was a little kid, I was in Mall of America, and there was a VR where we had to throw bubble gum. That doesn't mean me throwing bubble gum means I can shoot a gun. Like, that's why back in the day you would have like paper like targets. So the actual, if someone says, well, they do VR training in real life, well, then I'm sorry, I don't see how that's a benefit. I don't. John Cleese, he doesn't fit as the new Q. He just doesn't. I don't mind John Cleese, he just doesn't fit. He wasn't in much of the last one. It was a replacement for the actual Q. Just that was his last appearance. And John Cleese was just more goofy. But it's weird in this one, which is technically his first official Q. His first official take on Q. While I did in the previous one, he was kind of there, but being goofball. But then he acts like he's known James Bond for 5 years or 10 years. This is your 20th? Dude, you're a newbie. In our collective eyes, you just met this guy. He doesn't fit to me. I don't know how to explain it. And you have the invisible card. Even Pierce Brosnan is like, you must be joking. That's like probably him in real life going, you must be joking. Invisible car? Really? We ran that much out of ideas that we need an invisible fucking car? I know there's a lot of unrealistic stuff. James Bond went into space in Moonraker. But I'm like, this is what I'm talking about, where it wants to be campy, but it doesn't want to be campy. And then it's like, the invisible car. And the invisible car isn't even done much with it. There was an episode of Batman the Animated Series where it used an invisible car better than this movie does. The invisible car is not used much for crap. You think the invisible car would be maneuvered in some type of big car chase sequence where they're shooting but they don't know where to shoot, and they're going through the streets but people can't see them, so James Bond has to warn them? And no, not at all. You didn't even need an invisible car. Oh, and the rich guy, he's the dead Korean that went off the cliff, but he just changed his face. Oh, that he also has Iron Man's fucking electric hand to zzz people. Want to be Dr. fucking Doom. Oh, and there's an ice palace where the damn sunbeam, sun laser. That sounds like an Austin Powers plot. I'm surprised it wasn't a shark with freaking laser beams on its head. If you said that sun plot was an Austin Powers plot, people would believe it in the Ice Palace. People would believe it. Well, you don't know what the difference between a parody and the real James Bond film is. That's when you have an issue. That's when you have a problem. And again, this is a franchise where you had James Bond in space, Moonraker. By the way, Moonraker is not one of my favorites. But I would rather watch that than this. But... and terrible effects as well. Just garbage CGI. Garbage CGI. Like when James Bond's driving on the ice and the sun laser is going through it. It's just... how? Or James Bond has a CG, like, parachute surfing on water. And that CG looks as good as Steve from LA's surfing scene. And that was 96. This was 2002. So this is worse. This is 6 years later after that. And then driving through the ice palace while it's melting to try to save Halle Berry, but you don't know, you barely know rhyme or reason of this facility, so it just seems like you're just driving in random stuff. And you don't really get a sense of it because everything is just ice around him. Ice, ice, ice. I can understand the concept. It's a race against time because the place that you're driving on is melting, and yeah, I get... but it just... maybe that's something that works better in a video game and not in live action. Wow, that sounded like The World Is Not Enough. Where you have that action scene with the helicopter with blades. I'm like, why does the helicopter have blades? Just have more missiles and gunfire. Why does it have saws that go on the ground? Oh, because that's something that would work better in a video game, not in a movie. And you know what? I could forgive stupidity of action in order to try to be entertaining. Like, The World Is Not Enough, at least that was done practically and looked better aesthetically. Here, it doesn't even... the laser and the invisible car barely used at all. And what is used is just slowly drift in, like maybe 2 times. It's not used for the big action scenes. Like when a bad guy's chasing him on the ice. At least I don't remember it being. Maybe it was and I forget. Or it was, and then 30 seconds it was blasted, and now it didn't work anymore. So, wow. It just seemed pointless. And then the bad guy has that thing. Was he Shocker from Spider-Man? I'm the Shocker. And then what? It ends with a really bad, anticlimactic, horribly shot plane sequence. Where Halle Berry is fighting Rosamund Pike. Just, oh, surprise, Rosamund Pike's a villain. It's not a surprise, because they did that in the last movie. The girl who James Bond's trusting, but she's a bad guy. They did that with Sophia in World Is Not Enough. They did it with Rosamund in this movie. It's not a surprise what you just did the last fucking movie. So Halle Berry, that's why. Halle Berry fights Rosamund Pike while... Oh, Rick Yoon, how he died? In the Ice Palace, he shot something, a chandelier fell on him. Really. The plane, he fights the British, who's really a Korean guy. While outside, the laser is destroying stuff, or they're right near the laser, it's just really terrible CGI, terrible green screen. Terrible. I don't understand how, like, Roger Ebert and all these guys said this is like one of the best James Bond film of Pierce Brosnan's career, or the one guy who said this is the best James Bond film since The Spy Who Loved Me. That means you're taking this over License to Kill and GoldenEye. And they got paid for that? Maybe that's why, because they got paid by the studio. And one of my neighbor's roosters, maybe he got paid from the studio too. Messed up my reviews. So ultimately, gets the spoiler alert, gets the bad guy out. You know, some line about gravity. Guy goes to the engine of the plane. Our two get into a helicopter that free falls, and they're able to start the helicopter up and fly. Again, all garbage CGI. James Bond has had good scenes in airplanes. The Living Daylights. Which, hell, it seems like the scene that they put in the Uncharted video games and movie. Where James Bond is holding on, he's being kicked. With Timothy Dalton. Better plane scene than this. I mean, you see better plane scenes and... Well, it wasn't all on a plane, but Terminal Velocity. Where Charlie Sheen and the bad guy, they're in the car, they're all free-falling. It's a pretty damn crazy stunt. Not here, though. I know there was talks like Halle Berry did in her film Jinx, but Jinx is not that interesting of a character. Not because of Halle Berry, but because the way she's written. She's just another agent, and either she dives into bad CGI land, or she was tied down while James Bond's fighting some guy amongst these lasers that are just going all random, or she almost dies because of the Shocker, and James Bond has to save her. What does she really do in the film to help her get a movie of her own? She fought Rosamund Pike and stabbed her with a knife that was attached to a book? There's nothing that badass about Jinx to give her own movie. It wasn't like Michelle Yeoh in Tomorrow Never Dies, which, for I understand, that was the initial idea. But Michelle Yeoh actually did more in Tomorrow Never Dies. Actually kicked more ass. Actually felt more badass. Michelle Yeoh would make sense. Halle Berry, with what little they gave her to do physically, not really. No reason for her. Michael Mann is in it for whatever reason to get a paycheck. Michael Mann is completely wasted. He's an agent. He's talking like this, and maybe he smokes a cigarette. That's all he does. Smoke cigarettes. Give him the Solid Snake. You know, in this problem, maybe he could have played Solid Snake, Michael Madsen. Get fit and shit. Like if he was like 25, 30. And then Die Another Day, which made money. It did make money. Without inflation, it was the highest grossing James Bond film. But there were other people that were ridiculing it. Nowadays, it's considered one of the worst James Bond films. And bad CGI, boring plot. Halle Berry's not even much to do, at least badass-wise. Pierce Brosnan at times feels tired. Or he's like, I'm tired of this shit. I want to do something else. That's the thing with it. It's like people get really excited to be James Bond. Then after a bit, it's like, I don't know, just wears them out, tires them out. I don't know what it is. They just get tired of playing James Bond. Get drained. I don't know, something. Maybe something in the water. I don't know. But yeah, Die Another Day. Lame. Stupid. Ridiculous. Triple X, the previous year, was a better spy movie than this. And why you get the guy who directed one of the worst James Bond films to direct the sequel to Triple X, it's like someone wanted to intentionally sabotage that damn franchise. Obviously not, because it would hurt Lee Tamahori's directing career, but for some reason I think like there was some weird things like, go get him back for Triple X. I don't know, fuck up your franchise. But then you have Return of the Cage, and that still fucked up your franchise anyway, so. Yeah, Die Another Day. Suck Another Day. Suck on These. It's sad this was the last film Pierce Brosnan did as James Bond. Because at least Timothy Dalton, he only did 2, but they're 2 good movies, and you end with License to Kill, which is pretty cool. But the fact like The World's Not Enough wasn't that great, and then this is even worse. Like Pierce Brosnan did 4, and 2 of them were good. Maybe he knew the writing was on the wall. Maybe they're like, hey, we know this is too much. That's why years later they went with Casino Royale, new James Bond, new different serious direction. And you have this movie to thank for that. So good job, Die Another Day. I don't know what the future James Bond will be. I think just take a rest. Just take a long rest. So we'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.